All right. Will we see the monitor here on these screens, Danny? Right down here. That one there. All right. It looks like we are live and we're on YouTube as well. Is that correct, Danny? All right. Okay, it looks like we're ready to go. Hello, my name is Eric Thompson. I'm an information officer with the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen Emergency Operations Center. And this is our video update for December 17th. Apologies for the late start. Welcome to our video briefing. The RDOS would like to acknowledge the homelands of the Indigenous peoples of this place we now call British Columbia and honor the many territorial keepers of the lands on which we work. We have a number of panelists who will join us here in just a few moments, including the Mayor of Princeton, Spencer Coyne. He's also the Vice Chair of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen. We'll also hear from representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, and we'll get details on disaster financial assistance, the Red Cross, and from the RDOS, we'll hear from Mark Petrie. He's a building inspector. He's going to talk a bit about some of the issues you'll need to keep in mind if you're working to repair flood damage on your home. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A, a question and answer session for the media. I wanted to start by saying the RDOS understands that many people watching this broadcast on YouTube are dealing with some very serious flooding issues. They're going through significant hardship caused by that flooding. And while it is difficult to fully appreciate the challenges you're facing, the RDOS will continue to support and keep you informed during the recovery process. Now, before we hear from our panelists, here are just a couple of very quick reminders. This WebEx event is being recorded. It will be available on YouTube. And the meeting is recorded and available on YouTube. Voyant Alert. If you haven't signed up yet, please sign up for Voyant Alert. That's the notification system. It's at emergency.rdos.bc.ca, and you can go to the quick links section on the right side of the page. And that's, again, Voyant Alert for emergency notifications, but also for routine notifications from the regional district. Now, very important for anyone who lives in an area that has dealt with flooding, wildfires, or any of the other emergencies that can happen, being prepared is vitally important. At the website I just mentioned, emergency.rdos.bc.ca, you'll find the Prepared BC Emergency Guides and Resources link. Again, that's under Quick Links. You can find a lot of information there on getting your grab-and-go kit ready, whether you're at home, work, or in your vehicle. These are important considerations for everyone. Having a family plan, if there is an emergency, how do you contact relatives? How do you contact family members? How do you evacuate the property if you need to? All of that is there at Prepared BC in the Emergency Guides and Resources section, again, at the RDOS Emergency Operations Center website. Now, the holiday season is fast approaching, and during that time, there will likely be questions, and there won't always be people available on the end of the phone to answer those questions. But if you visit the website I mentioned, emergency.rdos.bc.ca, you'll find links and information, including the latest updates. And one of the updates that will be on there will have a list of all of the key contact information that you're going to need as we go through recovery. I want to start things off with the Mayor of Princeton, Spencer Coyne. He's also the Vice Chair of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen. As many of you know who are watching this, Princeton, along with many other areas, has been at the epicenter of this flooding disaster, and recovery is only just starting to begin and will continue for quite some time. Spencer Coyne has been front and center for his community in speaking with the public, but also speaking with the media to try and answer questions which are not always easy to answer. But Spencer is here now to share some information with us. And Director Coyne, we'll call you Director as you're in your role as a member of the RDOS board. What has been the most challenging for you throughout this process? Because I know you've heard from so many different people, but what has been the biggest challenge that you seem to be facing on a consistent basis?
That's a really good question, Eric. It's hard to say there's just one challenge. It continues to be an ongoing, let's say, rolling challenges. You seem to be able to solve one problem and another one pops up. So like right now we're trying to work on interim housing for not only our community, but for everybody impacted in the surrounding area. And we're working with the municipality and the regional district are working together to try to find interim housing right now for anybody who's going to be displaced long term. And so we're trying to navigate that world right now between EMBC, BC Housing, and all the other partners involved.
Just had a message from a member of the media, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of this broadcast. But quickly, do you have an idea of the numbers that you're facing in Princeton, the estimated number of homes damaged, people still displaced, that type of thing? And if you don't have it available, is it something you'd be able to provide a little later on for us, and we can add it to our information release?
Yeah, we're working on those numbers right now. We've been doing phone calls, finding out who's going to need long-term housing. And then I believe the regional district's doing the same thing at this time, just so we can ascertain those numbers. It's a bit of a process. It's taking a little longer than we had first anticipated.
Okay, and before we move on to our next presenters, and again, we'll invite you, Director Coyne, to stay with us for the Q&A session if you're able to at the end. Right now, we are hearing from a lot of people who want to help. What would you say is the best way to help, other than contacting the Red Cross? And we'll have that information in just a moment. But are there any other ways that Princeton residents are looking for help? Any other ways people can help?
The biggest thing right now for us is we've been overrun by donations, and we're so thankful for that. But we have the Community Foundation of South Okanagan-Similkameen that set up a fund for Princeton. And if people can donate to that fund, the cfso.net, it's right on their homepage. That money will go directly to flood victims. It's not going to go through the municipality or any other agency. We're going to give those funds to residents right now, and we have it open right now for $1,000. If you're in that impacted area in the town of Princeton, then you can apply, and we can get you that $1,000.
Do you know offhand, Mayor Coyne, if that extends to people in the electoral area, H in particular, folks living in Tulameen and Colmont?
I'd have to check with the foundation to see if that's the case right now. I don't, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Sort of put you on the spot there. Okay, we're going to move on then, unless there was anything else you wanted to add.
No, that's good. Well, we are working right now on a resiliency center. We're working again with the regional district on that. We're working collaboratively with not only the regional district, but a number of different organizations. We had a meeting this morning. We're working on trying to bring mental health supports into the community. Again, not just for Princeton, but for Tulameen, Colmont, and everybody affected on along Highway 3. So we can try to support people the best we can throughout this process, because that's the one thing that we've noticed is, as the stress continues to grow, we need to have more supports in place. So we've reached out and we've started that process.
Okay, thank you very much. That is the Mayor of Princeton, Spencer Coyne, also the RDOS Vice Chair. Let's go now to William Shaw. I'm just looking at our list here. Yeah, William Shaw is with us. He's a regional agrologist with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, and Fisheries. William, thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Eric. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. If you can just give us a quick overview. I know you had a presentation. You just wanted to share some information. I can certainly ask you a couple of quick questions, but what information would you like to share with people who are dealing with this flooding emergency when it comes to recovery?
I think the biggest thing I have to update on today, so it was announced at 11 o'clock this morning by our ministry that there's an emergency hay, forage, and livestock program that's been actioned, I guess. So commercial livestock producers in British Columbia affected by the recent floods are receiving support to buy immediate emergency supplies of forage food to keep their animals fed and healthy. So this is being administered by two different organizations, the BC Forage Council and the BC Cattlemen. And I would recommend anybody within the interior to reach out to the BC Cattlemen about this. And I can share this link for the announcement in the chat if that works.
Yeah, if you want to share that with us, certainly we can add that to our information release as well.
Okay.
So You know, we're starting at, obviously we're starting at the agriculture. There's no order of importance here by any means, but what else are you mostly dealing with in your ministry right now? What some of the key concerns?
So I've been supporting in the Central Pre-Oc, so I can only comment on what I've been working on here, not with anything that's been going on in the Southwest, which has been tying up a lot of our ministry resources and support. But we've also been dealing with tracking the impacts to producers that aren't in immediate needs of feed. That was probably aside from the damage done to the land base and infrastructure, feeds the top priority. Animal welfare is a big concern. Everybody wants to make sure that their animals can be fed. So we've just been tracking and directing people to submit their inquiries or losses to agri recovery. Should a program be announced, they'll be reaching back out to them.
Okay, William, if you're able to stay on the line, unless there was anything else you wanted to add, I'm going to move on to our other presenters and ask you if you can hold on for the media Q&A if you're able to.
Yeah, I can stay on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's William Shaw, Regional Agrologist with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries. Let's go next to Andrew Morrison. He is a Senior Regional Manager, and he is with Emergency Management BC, EMBC. He's here to talk about disaster financial assistance, and I'll just give the notice to Danny, who is operating behind the scenes here, that Andrew has asked if he can share his screen so he can present some information about disaster financial assistance. And Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Eric. Good afternoon, everybody. Andrew Morrison, Senior Regional Manager with EMBC. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm calling in today from the traditional territory of the Tecumseh people. And I'd also like to offer my thoughts to all those that were impacted by that flooding. Just bear with me one sec while I bring up my screen. Rather than show a presentation today, I thought it would be better to explain where individuals can find information on our website that will actually support their recovery process. So this is Emergency Info BC. It's a website that sort of amalgamates a number of sources of information into a single spot. And if you look down here, there's information for people impacted. If you click on that, we'll open up another page. Talks about the different alerts and orders, links to local government pages, regional district pages if you need it. The important piece I wanted to speak on today was sort of the recovery and financial support. There is information here on the Red Cross. I do believe they're presenting right after me, so I won't get into that. But if we click on the disaster financial assistance, it actually takes you to the page with all the information on it for disaster financial assistance. So disaster financial assistance is to support those that were impacted from the flooding and landslides from November the 14th to December the 2nd. For a number of areas within the province. Note there is a deadline for applications of March the 3rd, 2022. It does talk about who can apply. It explains what is covered in terms of essentially it's 80% for damage that exceeds 1,000 to a maximum of 300,000. On this page is also the information about the application forms, as well as information about for local governments to make their claims as well. At the bottom here is also the contact information for the Disaster Financial Assistance Program, including their email and their telephone number. One of the things that I sort of wanted to just mention is some of the eligible expenses. So I just clicked on that link of reviewing eligible expenses. So disaster financial assistance is for principal residents. Seasonal or recreational properties are not eligible. This page also goes into the different eligibility components for charitable organizations, small business, and farm owners. It does also talk a little bit about ineligible damage, including that insurable damages are not eligible. And I think, Eric, I'm going to leave it there and stop sharing.
Andrew, thank you very much. Andrew Morrison is a senior regional manager. He's with Emergency Management BC, EMBC. So for more information on disaster financial assistance, if you go to that website, we'll give out that information as well. It'll be on the RDOS Emergency Operations Center website, emergency.rdos.bc.ca. We're recording this on December 17th, Friday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. And a little later on today, there will be a new information release, an EOC update that will have links to much of what we spoke about here today. And just very quickly, we did invite email inquiries earlier before this broadcast. We didn't receive a lot of them, but one of them was asking about secondary residences. You mentioned that just now, and they will not qualify for the most part, but the details are on the website if anyone wants to find out more. And with that, we'll leave you to it. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, Andrew, and thank you for joining us and for that information. I do appreciate it, unless there was anything else you wanted to add.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, thank you very much again, Andrew Morrison with EMBC. Let's go now to Matt Baden. Matt is an operations lead with the Canadian Red Cross, and he's here to talk a bit more about the Red Cross program and anyone eligible for emergency support services can speak with the Red Cross, and that's what Matt is going to touch on right now, is the role the Red Cross is playing in the recovery for this flooding event. Matt, go ahead, please, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Eric. Let me first just start by expressing my deep-felt thoughts with those that have been impacted by this disaster. I want to talk about two of the large programs that the Red Cross is currently working in the province of British Columbia. The first is the financial assistance that is in conjunction with the government of BC, which is aimed at anyone who had been evacuated from their primary residence due to the weather event starting November 14th. This allows for a one-time payment of $2,000 per household. And to determine any kind of eligibility, just call our 1-800 number at 1-800-863-6582 between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Pacific time. I'm very happy to say is that as of December 8th, this program has actually dispersed up to $12.4 million to affected British Columbians. And so if anyone has any questions about that program, please don't hesitate to reach out at that 1-800 number as mentioned. The second program is that the emergency social services that have transferred over to Red Cross from EMBC and our civic partners across the province. We are working to connect with everyone who has registered and that is currently staying in emergency accommodation. This program, in order to receive services, it does require that you have registered with the Canadian Red Cross as well as EMBC. So if you had previously not registered with the Canadian Red Cross, please do so as soon as possible. This program really is providing the exact same services as has been dispersed by municipalities and the province up to this date. This includes assistance for accommodation, food, clothing, and personal hygiene products. Anyone who is currently receiving ESS can be extended to January 7th and with the possibility of extension to a later date. If you have not registered or received services, again, you can do so by calling our 1-800 number, and I'll give that number again, 1-800-863-6582, or by visiting www.redcross.ca/2021 BC floods to find a list of in-person locations. And we will continue to update that list of in-person locations throughout the holiday period. I wish also just to say is that actually our 1-800 number will be available throughout the holidays. We will have reduced hours over the December 24th, 25th, and 26th. However, you can still call that 1-800 number between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time throughout those days. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matt. You mentioned emergency support services, and the transition from emergency support services, or ESS, to the Canadian Red Cross is quite a big undertaking. So anyone who feels they haven't received the information that they need, if they phone that number, someone on the other end of the line can deal with their specific case and hopefully connect them with the resources they need.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent. We'll leave it there for now. And again, if you want to, if you're able to stay with us for the Q&A part, which is coming up shortly, please do. Otherwise, I understand everyone is very busy. We'll move on right now to Mark Petrie, who joins me here in the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen boardroom. Mark is a building inspector. He's with Development Services with the RDOS. And it has been a very busy time for many people in other regional district offices or departments, I should say. Rapid damage assessments have been conducted, and that is to confirm which properties are safe to enter. They're known as RDAs, and they're an essential tool to assess and track damage to individual properties. And as response efforts have transitioned into recovery, crews have been working diligently to restore road access, power, and other services, of course, agencies outside of the RDOS. But Mark continues to be busy. So Mark is with us now, and I'll ask you, Mark, if you can talk a bit about some of the considerations with those rapid damage assessments. For example, when you visited many of these properties, some of them will have a red card, some of them will have a yellow. Let's start with the yellow. What would a yellow placard mean if that's on someone's home?
Yeah, really quickly, we went through and assessed the damaged areas and the damaged buildings, and we would hit them with either a green placard or a yellow placard or a red placard, depending on the severity of the damage that we observed. So a yellow placard would mean that we didn't see any severe structural damage, but maybe the basements and electrical systems might have been submerged. And at that point, we're recommending that the homeowners would get a qualified gas or electrical contractor to review the system and make sure that no specific hazards exist. Now, some of these buildings still will need a remediation program to make sure that they don't encourage mold growth and unhealthy conditions in the future. So there is a process for that. We do encourage them to get a qualified contractor to help them out with that process. Restoration companies are experts in this. And we just want to make sure and assist the homeowners to try and get these buildings back to a state where they can be lived in again in the fastest amount of time. So that's a big part of our recovery efforts and assistance. We'd also encourage, if you do get them inspected by a qualified electrical contractor, to send us just some confirmation. It's not a requirement, but we will put that on your file just to make sure we keep some records of it. And if we did notice that they were damaged to an extent if we did notice they were damaged to a point where some significant supporting structures maybe were knocked off the foundation, or the building was listing, or the foundation had cracked, we likely would have placed a red placard on it. And in that case, we're going to have a bit more involvement in making sure that if the building is able to be repaired, we're going to likely be getting an engineer involved to do a review, to at least even gain re-entry. It'd be a very brief review of the building to say that it's not going to have any catastrophic collapse while you're maybe getting your materials and contents out. And then the next phase would be getting a building permit to either repair it, or if it's unrepairable, we'd look at the next steps in that sense.
So from what I understand, approximately 460 dwellings were looked at with those rapid damage assessments. So they were assessed. Properties showing damage within the regional district, approximately 104. There are a few properties still remaining on evacuation alert and order, and that information is available through the RDOS website, on the interactive website at emergency.rdos.bc.ca. Mark, can you give me a sense, give people watching this a sense of what you saw when you went to the communities of Tulameen and Colmont and Princeton as well? You were out in the entire region. Are we talking about damage that is, I know it ranged, and maybe you can talk about what you saw.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, in my experience in 15 years, it was catastrophic, of course. Even if it didn't have severe structural damage, the amount of mud and debris that ended up in some of these homes is, it was unbelievable. It's like a mudslide and earthquake all at the same time. Some of the water lines on the front door were upwards of 5 to 6 feet, and really it's amazing. As far as I know, nobody was severely injured or killed. I mean, it's a small miracle. A lot of the people in Princeton, I was impressed. I mean, they're coming together and they're actually fairly positive, considering how maybe they were in shock. But it was a very, very tough time, even for us, just to see the damage, but to see them digging their ways out of it and try to move forward. So I just think as the regional district, whatever we can do to help support them get through this and get back to normal is about as the best service we can provide. But yeah, definitely. The majority of the homes were just submerged mud, the muck out they call it, where they're going to be cutting the drywall up. and just trying to get the houses dried out and done safely is going to be the biggest thing to save these houses. Because if they do sit too long, and it does encourage certain conditions that would facilitate mold growth rot, it will be tough to save them. So it is important to get on this right away. But yeah, definitely catastrophic, the amount of damage.
Now, to that end, Highway 3 is scheduled to reopen. Again, we're recording this on December 17th, 2021. There will be people coming from other areas who have secondary properties or property in general in the Tulameen, Coalmont area, and potentially Princeton. When people come up or come to this part of the province who have a property that hasn't been touched now, it maybe has been damaged, it has been flooded, there will be some severe concerns there with potential mold and that type of thing. What would you say to people like that who are going to come across a property that, you know, the door's been open for the first time now since the flooding?
Yeah, we'd encourage them to get, there are special mold remediation specialists. So someone who's been certified in restoration of homes, definitely want to get them involved. Not every job is really capable for a homeowner to take on. Definitely give us a call. We'll help them, hopefully refer them to the right people and just help sort through some of those details. I mean, we're versed in the industry. We know the people, we know the locals who are qualified, and we can definitely help for their unique situation. Every house is slightly different, so it's hard to blanket them all, but definitely give us a call and we can assist with weeding through what their best approach is.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to add, Mark?
No, we just, like I said, we're just here to help them, and if they have any questions, just to call us at the RDOS, and we'll try and help them out.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to the media Q&A portion of this broadcast now, and we'll see if we do have any questions. We did have one from Joe Fries with the Penticton Herald. He was asking a question for Spencer Coyne. So I'll invite Spencer Coyne to come back if you can, Spencer, to answer this question about the potential for a camp-style accommodation. There was a report that might be happening in Princeton. What can you tell us on that?
Yeah, so we're in negotiations or talks, I guess, with the province right now. We've sent an application into EMBC. We've sourced some units that we could bring down and place in our industrial park for a camp-like setup if we have to. We're estimating it's around 100 people that are going to need some sort of long-term housing until they can get back into their homes. So we're trying to keep those people in our communities. Right now, with ESS supports being transferred over to the Red Cross, we've had having a limited supply of housing in our community. People have had to leave the community, so we're trying to bring those. We want everybody home. That way they can work on their homes, they can go to work, they can be part of the community still. So we are in negotiations or talks right now with the province, and BC Housing is also in those discussions with us. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. We won't have an answer for you right away, but we are working on that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just open it up to any other possible media questions. And I see Joe Fries is with us, but I don't know if he has a question. We'll just double check. All right, we'll hold it there for a moment. A couple of things to mention real quick here. During flooding and landslide emergencies, the Emergency Operations Center is tasked with response efforts, and that may include emergency works to stop or limit imminent threats to life and property. Emergency response requests from the local government are approved and funded by the province. And as you may know, the regional district does not have a service for flood mitigation. And that is a question that comes up a lot, is what will happen with the dikes. And certainly, as we heard from the CAO of the regional district during a recent board meeting, it's something the province has committed to look into, is the situation with these orphan dikes. Residents may choose to petition the RDOS to establish a flood management service, but this remains a provincial responsibility. And I understand the situation can be very frustrating for people whose properties have been damaged by flooding. But as a property owner, you may choose to contact a qualified professional, such as an engineer or hydrologist, or as we heard from Mark Petrie, also an option for you to contact any restoration company, a qualified, certified restoration company that might be able to help you out with some of those mold issues. And with that, final check to see if we have any other media questions. Danny, do we have anyone on the line? Oh, Joe Fries is here. Okay. Joe, thank you very much for joining us. How can we help you?
Thank you. Question for Mark Petrie. He talked about the need to dry things out and cut away damaged water-soaked drywall, etc. But I'm wondering how freezing weather impacts these things and how that's playing a role in the recovery.
Mark Petrie, building inspector with the RDOS. What can you say to that?
I mean, obviously getting on it right away. Many of the residents did get on it right away. Keeping temperatures low if there is still standing water is better than obviously having the temperatures in the optimal growth region. I don't have the data exactly on mold growth ideals, but we all know the warmer, moister weather will facilitate mold growth in the wood-based and fabric-based structures. So we are just encouraging that to call certified people and get on as soon as possible, because there would be a point where it's going to be difficult to make these buildings healthy again.
All right. Is that good, Joe?
Yes, and one question for Director Coyne as well. I'm curious, there's been problems associated with Highway 3, all the commercial traffic being rerouted. I'm wondering though if there's been any good spin-offs for the town, in terms of gas stations or businesses being busier. And conversely, are you anticipating, looking forward to the Coke reopening and siphoning off some of that traffic?
Yes. So the biggest thing with the way the ministry has set up the way the traffic flow goes through town, it's to try to keep it continuous. A lot of the trucks have been encouraged to continue on. Of course, with the highway closures, that's not always the case. So the gas stations and some of the businesses along the highway have seen an increase in traffic. We still don't have potable water for the highway corridor, so it's still on a do not consume list. So it's limited some of what they can supply to travelers. With the highway traffic being rerouted back onto the Coquihalla, that's a huge sigh of relief for us. The highway is closed almost every day right now with at least one accident or more, and that's added extra strain onto our emergency services. With the increase of domestic travel, I'll call it, we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to being able to open up our downtown again and get people moving around. We still have a lot of streets that are, in the damaged areas. So up until now, we haven't wanted a lot of extra traffic through our downtown.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. And thank you, Mayor Coyne. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap things up. I would like to thank all of our guests for joining us and for staying with us as well. Matt Baden with the Canadian Red Cross. I want to mention as well, there are flood recovery kits. It's a large bucket that is available for people who are cleaning out their homes. And from what I understand, there are some of those still available in Tulameen at the fire department. And I see here I've got I'm just looking at messages that I'm receiving. And a question here from Brady Strachan with CBC. And he was wondering how to join us, and I won't be able to give him that information right at the moment. If he's watching this on YouTube right now, the link that we sent out to the media on Friday, December 10th, is the same link to access. But if you want to, since you're texting me, if you want to text me a question, I can certainly pose it right now. But anyway, back to Matt Baden with the Canadian Red Cross. Thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you taking time out, and we'll remind people of those phone number, the phone number, I should say, and the contact information, and that will be on the RDOS Emergency Operations Center website as well. And also to William Shaw, Regional Agrologist with Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries. Thank you very much for that update. We do appreciate your time. And earlier we heard from Andrew Morrison, a Senior Regional Manager with Emergency Management BC. He was talking about disaster financial assistance. That information also available on the Emergency Operations Center website. And just waiting for a final text from the media. I wanted to wrap it up. Oh, I should also thank Mark Petrie here in the boardroom as well. I do appreciate your support support on all of this. And when I say support, I mean getting back to phone calls and emails from the EOC and spending time in the Emergency Operations Center and as part of that team that fanned out throughout the region to conduct those rapid damage assessments. Now, a question from Brady Strachan, reporter with CBC Radio in Kelowna. How many homes are still under evacuation order and alert in the RDOS, and in what areas? Brady, that information is on the RDOS website right now. We're going to condense it so that it's easy to find, but there is an interactive map that's on the Emergency Operations Center website, emergency.rdos.bc.ca. And it shows the areas still under evacuation alert and order. And the latest numbers that we had was there were approximately, I believe it was 12 homes on evacuation alert. We have to confirm that number. That was as of December 14th, and there were 5 homes on evacuation order. And I believe that was for electoral area H, rural Princeton. But again, we'll put that information out as soon as we can so that you're not having to go search through the website to find it. And with that, I wanted to wrap up, if I could, with Spencer Coyne, the mayor of Princeton and vice chair of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen. Spencer, you've spent a lot of time in front of the cameras and microphones in the last little while, much more time than you'd like, because you have a job to do there as both the mayor and vice chair of the Regional District. You've seen a lot of difficult situations for people, but you've also seen some of the good. And I thought we could end this broadcast before the holiday season with some of the good. You've seen people, I know I've heard some stories, some extraordinary situations where neighbors are helping neighbors. And we know in some of the more rural areas like Tulameen and Colmont, it's just a matter of, it's a fact of life that you have to help your neighbors when the power goes out and those types of things. But can you share any stories or anecdotes with us that could leave us on a high note?
Well, I'll share the other night with you. The Princeton Crisis Assistance does a annual food hamper at Christmas, and the other night I got the opportunity and the honor to go out with the fire department, ground search and rescue, BC ambulance, and local towing companies, and we went door to door and we collected, I don't know how many truckloads of food from our community just to support everybody else. And I think it really shows the spirit of our community. Even though there's so many people right now needing help, everybody still was able to come out and help the community once again. And it just shows, you know, no matter what, our community is going to stand together and be united. And I've watched as neighbors help neighbors clean out their houses, and I've watched as people from outside our community have come in and they've selflessly come in and given weeks of their time to help our community. We had an army of volunteers the first 2 weeks where they just went out and they mucked out all these houses for people. And those were organized by locals. And, to single one incident out would be wrong. Everything we've done has been community driven, and I'm so honored to be able to call Princeton my community.
Well, thank you very much, Spencer Coyne, for joining us. I really do appreciate all the time you've put in for what has been a very difficult time during this flooding emergency. Everyone in the Emergency Operations Center in Princeton and in Penticton at the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, a lot of hours, a lot of time, and it's not over by any means yet. The recovery is just getting started and will continue for a long time. I know we'll hear from you again, and I do appreciate you taking time to join us.
Thanks, Eric.
Again, that's Spencer Coyne. He's the mayor of Princeton and the vice chair of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen. As we wrap up, I've given out the email address, the web address, and I'll give it out again. It's emergency.rdos.bc.ca. There are a lot of links there, information ranging from being prepared to dealing with flooding and remediation and that type of thing. And you can find that all there. And over the holidays, certainly it will be limited hours, and the main office here at the RDOS will be closed. But we certainly invite you to look for those resources online. And I think we'll leave it there. I do appreciate you taking time to join us. And latest updates on the website I mentioned is where you'll find any new information. If the situation changes, if you haven't yet, please do sign up for Voyant Alert. That is the notification system the RDOS is now using. And you can find that information on the website under quick links. That's really important because if the situation changes, and often it can change very quickly, that's how you'll get notifications via email or telephone or text. And then again, for the preparedness tips, you can find that there as well. Thanks again. We'll wrap it up there. Have a good holiday season.